And all right, so a restricted free agent means that your contract is expired, you've had your entry-level deal, and there are specific numbers, like you need 3 years of experience if you were drafted at this age, and if you were drafted at a later age, you might only need 1, 2, but the point is, after your entry-level deal, you'll be a restricted free agent. Not any team can sign you. Only your team still has the rights to you. That's the whole reason behind the draft, and it's the reason it's not a free-for-all, is because they want the rights to a player to be, the teams want to keep those for as long as they can without having to pay anything, so to speak. You know, there's no extra money entailed besides what's called a qualifying. So these players who are restricted free agents, every single time their contract is up, until they're going to be 27, or they've played 7 NHL seasons, and a season or a year, you can see it's like in quotes, is actually only 10 games. So if you played more than 10 games in a season, it's considered you've played for that year. But if you meet these, until you meet these requirements of being older or being 7 years experience to become an unrestricted free agent, you're restricted, and your team has to extend you a qualifying offer. So you're hot shit, they want you to play again, they want to keep you. They have to either extend you a qualifying offer, or they have to extend you a qualifying offer, which is a fancy word for a contract that is regulated on price. So it's usually for only 1 year after that, because players only want to sign for short periods of time because they think that they're going to get so much better that they want to, like in a year, they're going to grow so much, they're going to be worth so much more the next year that they don't want to sign for long-term deals. So usually it's 1 to 2 years after an entry-level 3-year deal. If they're even better, 1 year, like if they're really good, 1 year is what they're going to be looking for. And the player has some pull with what they're going to be able to accept here. Some pull, not a lot. Once you've signed an entry-level deal, you've chosen to become part of the team, and you will stay with that organization, except for a couple of different things. How are we doing on time? We're doing great. We're coming up on the end of this. So the regulation on prices, you have to give them up to a 10% raise, no matter what. This is a Players Association thing. It's something the Players Association fought for. If they are close to like $1 million, you have to give them 0% raise minimum. And if they're close to like, you know, 525,000, 520 or 75,000, you know, the lowest possible salary, they get a 10% raise. And there are tiers and levels and stuff like that. But up to a 10% raise, you have to give it to them every time you sign them. It's like the minimum. You can negotiate, once you extend a qualifying offer, you can negotiate outside of that, but this is the minimum of what you have to offer a free agent in order to keep their rights. If you don't do this, by the time the season is starting, like, I don't know the actual date, I think it's like June or July, there's a date. If you don't do this by then, other teams can send them qualifying offers in the form of what's called an offer sheet. I think that's the next one. Offer sheet. Offer sheet is basically a fancy word for you're a team and you want somebody else's restricted free agent that you don't have the rights to sign. If they make a lot of money, if they're a really good player and the player is holding out because, you know, whatever reason, and like the player is making over 1.2 million, you're gonna have to give them picks in return for the rights to that player because the rights are worth something. Basically, this never happens. Like, I can't think of a time in recent history where this actually happened, and it wasn't just a trade. There are some times, and I'm sure it hasn't even in recent history, but it's not that big. It's deserved a slide, only because I like it. You have to give compensation to those teams if you're going to sign their player. After this, assuming that you've signed with a team, that's great, you're good. You're a restricted free agent still, or you're no longer a restricted free agent, you're signed to a contract, you now play for a team just like everybody else. Then, if you don't sign, and it becomes December, I believe it's a date in December, like December 5th or something like that, some arbitrary date. If you don't sign by that time, you are no longer eligible to play for that year. So if you hold out and you don't sign a qualifying offer that you're given from your team, and you're not offered an offer sheet from somebody else, you may not get to play.